All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Irene Varley, Director of Education for the Dibble Institute. And joining me today, along with our various state extension speakers, is Kathy Gidre, our webinar organizer. And you'll be hearing from her off and on throughout the broadcast. Hey, Kathy.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Well, before we begin, I'd like to point out a few housekeeping tips. If you experience any difficulties during this broadcast, please note the phone number listed here on your or the link on your email connecting you to the webinar. Just in case you have any audio issues, there is a reminder that you can call in to listen on the phone while viewing the broadcast on your computer. And we do recommend that you use earphones while connected to the broadcast. If you have any technical questions, you may send inquiries through the question box located on the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. If you just take a second to look at that, and the question box says type message here, and that's what Kathy will see, and she will handle your questions. We will have time for specific questions after each presenter, and then again as time allows after all speakers have presented. If your questions are not addressed during this time, we will try definitely to send you an email answer. And our broadcast is being recorded to be archived, and it'll be available early next week. Well, for those of you unfamiliar with the Dibble Institute, we are a national, independent, nonprofit organization dedicated to equipping young people with skills and knowledge they need to develop healthy, romantic relationships now and for their futures. Charlie Dibble is our founder, and he was dedicated in his retirement years to working with young people. And from them, he heard many stories following their own parents' relationship issues. And it was a time that the divorce rate had reached its peak, and Charlie was concerned with the decreasing models of healthy relationships teens had to emulate. He then decided to spend his last years helping young people learn the skills necessary for successful marriage. We know Charlie would be very proud of the work being done by our speakers today. People new to us often wonder, what our value platform is. Well, while we are in line with what the research has to say on the importance of marriage and stable, committed unions, we are not anti-divorce or anti-single parent. It is our hope that through relationship education, young people today can build healthy relationships for tomorrow. Our programs never assume the gender of the young person's partner, and we have written scenarios with input from young people that address all kinds of current relationship situations. When registering for this webinar, I noticed several of you said you knew little about either the Dibble Institute or Extension. In many ways, that is the purpose of this webinar today, to help bring awareness of the mutual goals both the Dibble Institute and Extension share and the work being done. I hope those unfamiliar with us will come away with an understanding how the Dibble Institute and Extension may be able to positively support and impact the work you're doing. So let's get started. We have a lot of wonderful speakers today. I'm going to start with Alicia Shipley. Alicia, who currently serves as a Child and Family Program Specialist in the Division of Family and Consumer Sciences at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, that's NIFA, under USDA, and extension programs that emphasize improving the nation's health, nutrition, and family life through the coordination of resources and partnerships within the land-grant university system. She also provides leadership for the NIFA Student Intern Program, which focuses on professional development, education, and science, literacy, and mentorship. She's been with NIFA for 4 years. She holds a PhD in Family Studies from the University of Kentucky, and she is also a fully certified family life educator. Dr. Shipley's expertise and interests focus on healthy relationship development, socialization processes, emerging adulthood, and relationship education program. Well, welcome, Alicia. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you to Kathy and the Dibble Institute for inviting me to briefly share about my experiences with a Dibble curriculum, Love Notes, which I feel is a valuable and effective relationship education curriculum for youth. I'm delighted to be a part of the webinar. But before I share that, I'm just going to give a brief overview of Cooperative Extension, since the purpose of this webinar is to increase understanding of how Extension professionals are currently using Dibble programs, and also to capitalize on the opportunities for community partners to collaborate with Extension. I understand that a substantial number of you participating on the webinar are Extension colleagues, so this description is for all of the community partners and stakeholders outside of Extension, so they can have a better understanding if they do not already. So what exactly is Cooperative Extension? Well, Cooperative Extension operates through the land-grant university system, which is a partnership among the federal government, primarily my agency, the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and state and local governments. There's at least one land-grant university in every state, and in some states there are also minority-serving land-grant institutions. And I'll also provide a link to a map of the land-grant university system. Extension is part of a three-pronged mission of every land-grant university, and there's a symbiotic relationship among these areas. First, we engage in and use research to provide answers to complex issues facing the nation and the world. And also at each institution, there's some school or college that provides education to train the next generation of scientists and educators and producers and citizens. And then finally, university-based faculty, extension specialists, and educators are employed with the land-grant universities in the state to provide the knowledge that we've gained through research and education to the local citizens, as well as the agricultural workforce, and enable them to put theory into practice. Cooperative Extension is the world's largest informal education system, and we have a presence in every county in the United States as well as in the U.S. territories. Our core program areas include, but are not limited to, agriculture, family and consumer sciences, 4-H and positive youth development, health and nutrition, community development, environmental stewardship, disaster preparedness, climate variability, and volunteerism. And then I'll also be providing a link on how to find extension educators in the field as well as university-based faculty. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. I also wanted to provide some information about relationship education resources and extension. As we think about implementing the featured Dibble Institute relation education resources for youth, we can also think about simultaneously educating parenting couples and co-parents and other caregivers so they have the skills actually to impart to teens. Cooperative Extension has an abundance of unbiased, research-based resources and curriculum for healthy relationship education. At the national level, the National Extension Relationship and Marriage Education Network, or NERMAN as we call it, is comprised of state extension specialists and professors housed at the land-grant universities who are experts in this field. Collectively, they have created research-based resources, curriculum, and professional development and training tools focused on helping youth, couples, spouses understand and build healthy relationships. They've also created curriculum to train professionals who work with individuals and families to teach these skills and behaviors to their clients. NERMAN's online website features a clearinghouse of NERMAN products as well as extension developed-based products for relationship education. The next slide, please. So here's a screenshot of nerman.org. Individuals, if you go to the site, individuals and professionals can access information on healthy relationship development based on over 40 years of research in this area. You can also access information about professional training that extension educators can offer to community partners to build their capacity to work with clients that can benefit from this knowledge. There are tools available for building and identifying an effective relationship education program. And then you can also access Elevate, which is a couples education curriculum developed through Auburn University and the University of Georgia. There's also a showcase of extension resources. And if you're an extension educator and you have a resource that's been developed through your Cooperative Extension service, feel free to share it on the sites using the instructions that are there. And then there's also a space for extension colleagues to get involved and network about this topic. And then in terms of something related to networking, another point I would also like to make is the importance of partnerships around relationship education and outreach. For example, the Responsible Fatherhood Grants, which are newly titled the New Pathways for Fathers and Families, should be announced soon by the Administration for Children and Families. And these grants are designed to help fathers establish or strengthen positive interaction by providing activities and education that help them to develop and improve their relationship, communication, parenting skills, and contribute to financial well-being. And so Extension is an ideal partner for delivering relationship and life skills education and resources to this population as well as to the public. One, because of its reach, two, because of its capacity, and three, because of the competence of our educators. So I would encourage all the attendees who are on the call who aren't in Extension to get to know their local county or regional extension educators as well as the university-based faculty. Also, for our extension colleagues on the call, it is equally important to create and maintain relationships with local and state entities. For example, state health departments or departments of health and human services are often awarded grants in which educators are needed, and we need to make sure we capitalize on these partnerships in subsequent opportunities. And so links for all of this information will be provided. And a thought is that teamwork really does make the dream work. So making sure that we understand what the community is doing, what is happening on campus, what's happening in local extension offices will actually help us to reach our dream, which is making sure that adults and children have the education and the skills that they need to build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Next slide, please. So, Love Notes. So I was asked to speak on Love Notes because recently there was a public training for Love Notes that I attended in Maryland that was offered through the National Fatherhood Initiative and through the staff at the Dibble Institute. And back when I was in graduate school, Marlene Pearson, who actually developed Love Notes, came and did an in-service for us, and all-day in-service, and took us through Love Notes. And now it's been updated and to version 2.0. And when I attended the training, it just further reminded me how effective and valuable I think this curriculum is. One, because it features real-world voices and experiences and settings that are accessible to the minds of young people, and is created with the voice and the feedback of actually Marlene Pearson's students. So it's something that is relatable to young people. That's the intended audience for Love Notes. And then also there's a focus on self-development, which is very, very valuable for young people because it's important that they kind of explore their identity and their values and their expectations and their goals and establish self-care before they enter into relationships with others, and just to also be mindful of really taking care of themselves and making supportive decisions while they're in relationships, and also if they may need to leave relationships. Also, the content is research-based. There has been research incorporated that are based on concepts that are scientifically sound. the information, the health information is scientifically sound, so it is a solid research-based curriculum. And there's also a flexible structure. You can tailor the delivery or the language based on your audience while also keeping in line with the fidelity of the program. And you can also supplement curriculum from other Dibble resources, such as The Art of Loving Well, which integrates literary works to illustrate concepts and stimulate discussion around relationship development. There's also an emergent evidence base on Love Notes. It's actually in the National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs in REP. And so this is a really, really solid curriculum. I love using it. And, the staff at the Dibble Institute, they are knowledgeable and experienced and always willing to provide guidance on the program if you ever need some type of assistance implementing the program in your area. Could you go to the next slide, please? So I just wanted to also share some of my own experience from implementing this curriculum. I've worked with college students and high school students who, some of them are teen moms, are college moms, and if you've ever worked with Love Notes, or if you do in the future, you'll see that one of the first activities is for the participants to finish this statement with a picture. Today, relationships are like. And so if you can see on here, most of these are negative. You see someone who is very challenging for them to get to love, is buried 6 feet under. And there's another picture that kind of depicts infidelity. Another picture that kind of depicts, finding love as a kind of if you chance it, it's not something that is for certain. And so I believe with relationship education that you can begin to to look at love and developing relationships in a different way once you're provided with the education and the knowledge and equipped with that to help you enter into that domain. And you can start making supportive decisions for yourself. And I believe that relationship education allows you to cultivate that understanding and power, one, both as educators, and then also to cultivate that power in the youth that we're serving. So I do think that this is very powerful, and I would really recommend that you just take a look at Love Notes when you have the opportunity. And so that is all I have for now. Does anyone have any questions?
Kathy, do we have any questions or comments from our audience?
I don't have anything right now. If anyone would like to ask a question or make a comment, if you'll just write it there in the question box, and then I'll relay it to the panelists.
And I appreciate what you're saying, Alicia, especially when we come to college-age students. And in fact, we are really just breaking ground into that audience as far as getting into community colleges with relationship education. Marlene just did a training in LA with 5 community colleges there, and they had advisors who were trained in Love Notes and are going to implement it in the community college, where we have many young people who already are married. It's non-traditional education in many ways, and so we have non-traditional students, and they have found this to be particularly an important part of successful campus life. So thank you for reminding me of that. I appreciate it.
And I have one question, or a couple questions here. Kristen wants to know, what specific groups of youth do you work with when you are presenting Love Notes, and how do you actually recruit? How do you suggest recruiting participants?
Well, actually, when I have done these workshops or community education kind of seminars in the past, I've worked with a teen mom group at a high school. I've worked with a group of college moms, or actually moms that are parenting as they're in college, traditional students, and then also with college students. And actually, I didn't necessarily have to go and recruit them. These were kind of groups that were already established, and so I
Mm-hmm.
was either invited in to kind of impart these skills as part of a larger goal for that particular group. So school system, community groups are presented at conferences, and those types of organizations.
Great. Okay, and Irene, you might want to answer John's question. Can you provide us with the age range for love notes, and tell him about public schools using the love notes?
Yes, actually, the age range, it was created for ages 16 to 24 is the target audience. And it provides education for those students that are at high risk for pregnancy and or maybe even already teen parents, young adolescent parents. And high schools using them. We know that alternative schools are using them, grads programs, which is pregnant and parenting teen programs in high schools. And it's interesting, when this first came out, we thought, oh, this was really very edgy, and it would be for an audience, a very particular audience. And what we're finding, given where adolescent youth are today, that it's not so edgy for people to be teaching them in the lower grades as well, such as high school, during high school years. Would not be appropriate for middle school, but definitely can be in some audiences for high school. And we do have high schools that are using them. I can't mention any names right now as they don't come to my mind, but I know we do have them. So I'm glad to get back with you if you need more information on that.
Okay, great. I think we can move to the next speaker.
Okay,
Or
well.
presenter, I'm sorry.
Well, I'd like to introduce my friend Craig Dart, who works for Utah State University. He's been with them for 17 years and currently serves as a 4-H youth development specialist. Craig earned a bachelor's and master's in therapeutic recreation from the University of Minnesota. He is the lead advisor for 4-H Council's National Mentoring Program, providing leadership to Utah State's Youth and Families with Promise 4-H mentoring program. Craig's major responsibilities include programming in the areas of citizenship and leadership. Craig currently resides in Paradise, Utah. Doesn't that sound? I mean, where in Utah is it not paradise? He's with his wife and 4 children, and he enjoys all kinds of outdoor adventures, rock climbing, mountain biking, and canyoneering, which I think sounds especially interesting. Craig is very imaginative, creative in his programming, and he is happy to be able to share that with us today. He is going to, currently he is using Prepare, Enrich, Inspire for this year, and he will explain how he is incorporating or implementing Prepare, Enrich, Inspire into the 4-H Advisory Committee programming. Thanks, Craig. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Irene. You can see some pictures there of me and my exploits in Utah. I love living in Utah, and I usually tell people that I'm a dad first and foremost, and my job is just something I do to pass the time. Before I jump into Prepare, Enrich, Inspire, I want to give a little bit of background about 4-H. As Dr. Shipley mentioned, 4-H is the youth-serving organization of the land-grant university system. And so every county or parish in America has access to a 4-H program. And most people, when they hear 4-H, they automatically go to the agricultural side of 4-H, and that's historically true, but 4-H does so much more. 4-H has 3 mission mandates that we try to do in all programming, and those 3 mission mandates are science, citizenship, and healthy living. And when we talk about science, we're talking about things like robotics and aerospace and alternative energy and coding. And when we talk about citizenship, we're talking about empowering young people to be well-informed citizens who are actively engaged in their community. And then when we talk about healthy living, we're talking about helping youth find a balance that leads a balance in physical health, mental health, and emotional health. And so regardless of the project area that we do in 4-H, we try to infuse these 3 mission mandates into everything we do. For example, mountain biking is something that I'm really into here in Utah. We have some of the best mountain biking in the world, and so we run mountain bike camps. Well, when we do mountain bike camps, we infuse science by talking about the engineering of the bikes. We talk about the environmental footprint that we make as cyclists, so we hit science. From a citizenship standpoint, we talk about trail etiquette and what your responsibility is as a good citizen on the trail. And from a healthy living standpoint, we would talk about food and nutrition and aerobic exercise and lung capacity. And so we infuse these mission mandates into everything we do. Here in Utah, we have a problem with serving teens. If you look at the enrollment, and I think this is nationwide, if you look at the enrollment in 4-H, from the 3rd grade until about 8th grade, we maintain a very constant number of youth served. But for whatever reason, when we hit the high school aged years of 9th through 12th grade, at least in Utah, there is a drastic drop-off of participation in the number of youth that we serve. And so this was of real concern for us here in Utah. We tried to gather our staff together and come up with some strategies of how can we increase participation of teens in our youth programs throughout the entire state. And so what we did is we sought some funding, and in the funding that we sought, we specifically targeted teens and relationship development. And what we came up with is a number of promising approaches of how we could increase participation amongst our teens. And the areas that we chose to focus on were, number 1, teen council, increase participation of teens in our teen councils. 2, increase participation in our regional ambassadorship program. And then lastly, increase participation in our teen winter retreat. And so what I'd like to do is talk to you about how we've infused Prepare, Enrich, Inspire into those 3 service delivery modes. And so before I do that, I'd like to explain why we chose to select Prepare, Enrich, Inspire. And number 1 is because it's on the National Registry of exemplary programs or effective-based programs. And secondly, because we are affiliated with the land-grant institution, Prepare, Enrich, Inspired is research-based. And I really believe that because of these 2 characteristics, they made our proposal very appealing to the funding sources. People are willing to fund things that have a proven track record of effectiveness. And so we wrote this particular curriculum into a grant proposal that I was successful in obtaining. So what I'd like to do is just very quickly explain how we used Prepare, Enrich, Inspire. And the first thing that we did is we invited the Dibble Institute to Utah to train all of my teen council volunteer advisors and staff. Irene came to Utah. We went down and met in a central location, and we did a training where Irene went through the curriculum, explained how the curriculum worked, explained the 10 lessons, what the topics were, and basically showed us how to get the most out of the Prepare, Enrich, Inspire curriculum. And it was very helpful because if you just read the curriculum, at least when I read the curriculum, I didn't fully understand the way the curriculum was designed, and it was very helpful to both me and my staff. So the first intervention that we used this with was our Teen Winter Retreat. and a little history of our Teen Winter Retreat, we offered this program about 7 years ago as a reward trip. And basically, there was no real focus on programming. It was a reward for kids that had succeeded in state contests. The objective was to reward them and have a lot of fun. So the first year we offered this, we had 7 youth across the entire state participate. And we said, well, it's just because it's new. So we offered it a second year, we had 15 youth. We were a little discouraged. We offered it a third year, we had 40 youth. We were still very unsatisfied with the number of youth that we were reaching. So about 4 years ago, we changed the focus of Teen Winter Retreat to focus exclusively on relationships and dating. And we thought, what are kids into? What's important to them? And the very first year we offered this, we had 80 youth come, which we were tickled. From 7 to 80, that was tremendous. The next year we jumped to 120 youth. The next year we jumped to 150 youth. This year we had 200 youth, and we had to cap it at 200 because of the facilities. Teens love this. It's highly motivating for them to come to a camp, a residential overnight camp, and talk about dating and relationships in a safe, fun environment. And what we found is that our teens here in Utah, the only source of information about dating was typically from their religious congregations. And we found that this was very refreshing to them because it was a different approach to relationship development that wasn't about religion, it was about science, and we used the research-based curriculum to teach the elements of the curriculum. And interestingly enough, the concepts that we taught were not, against or different from the things they were being taught in a religious situation. So everybody was happy. The kids were happy, the parents were happy, and it just seemed to work. The other thing that we did to make this work is we actually trained our 4-H state ambassadors in this curriculum, and our 4-H ambassadors taught the curriculum. So it wasn't adults telling the kids how to build meaningful relationships, it was kids teaching kids, and we have found that to be a very important component to this. Basically, what we did, because we only had 2 days, is we brought our 8 kids together, we took them through the entire curriculum, and then we allowed the youth to self-select the concepts that were most important. And so the kids chose. The kids chose what topics. The kids actually taught the curriculum, and it was excellent. And then, of course, we mixed in cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, and you can see some of the pictures there. We had a dance, and we made, we infused a lot of recreation into it, and so that was highly successful. So this year, as I mentioned, we're focusing on Prepare, Enrich, Inspire. In addition to the Teen Winter Retreat, which is how we kicked off the year, we have been working with our teen councils, and what our teen councils are doing is every month our teen council advisors are presenting a short 15-minute mini lesson that they take from the curriculum. And once again, this is to reinforce the concepts that the kids are being taught all year long. It's part of their leadership and relationship development as teen council members. And then what we have done is we've asked our teen councils to turn around and teach 2 county-wide events to the larger community throughout the course of the year. And so, for example, in Nephi, Utah, this month, they're holding a community-wide event that they do in conjunction with the local health department, where the whole focus is on relationship development, and our teen council is hosting the workshops that will be using Prepare, Enrich, Inspire to teach all of the community about the importance of relationships. Other counties have chosen to do overnight camps where the focus is on relationship development, and once again, they pull the content from Prepare, Enrich, Inspire. And then the last service delivery mode is our Regional Ambassador Program, and just like Teen Winter Retreat, our Regional Ambassador teen leaders are using the Prepare, Enrich, Inspire curriculum as the content for their workshops. And what we will do from an evaluation standpoint is come October, we will evaluate all of our teens that have participated in these programs to hopefully document some effectiveness of developing these concepts related to relationship development. And then next year, just another plug for the Dibble Institute, next year in 2016, which is shown on the next slide, we will be using the Relationship Smart Plus curriculum, which is also a Dibble Institute curriculum, and we don't know about it yet, so I can't really report on it. But what I can say to wrap up is that I think the key to success is the quality curriculum taught by teens who are passionate about the subject. And we've seen a huge increase in our teen participation service delivery modes because we're trying to reach out and find topics that are that they find interesting and they want to know. So I will now open it up for questions.
Kathy, do we have any questions yet?
We sure do. Maria would like to know, what are you doing to include minorities and underserved populations in your 4-H programs? For example, Hispanics. Doing anything different to recruit them?
You know, we really don't. Individual counties promote the activities that we offer from the state 4-H office. And so, for example, I live here in Cache County, and we have a fairly large Latino community. And so our local agents are the people that actually do the outreach and advertise for us. And so individual counties are the ones that make the pitch. I don't make the pitch here from the state office. It's our county staff. And so those counties that have those connections will reach out and do that.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions specifically for Craig? If not, I think we can move on to the next panelist.
I think, as everyone can see, that Craig has a lot of great ideas of incorporating young people and knowing how to lure them into leadership learning, because you know, everything he's done is bringing that, both the relationship education and the leadership education together. So thank you, Craig. Well, now we have Eric Murphy from West Virginia University Extension. And Eric is a clinically trained health educator, a neuropsychotherapist, and has worked in corporate, private, and community settings since 1992. He attended both West Virginia University and Fairmont State University, receiving a bachelor's degree in liberal arts with an emphasis in special education and art education. Between his time earning his 2 master's degrees, he also worked in for nonprofit organizations such as independent living centers, youth treatment facilities, and programming in both disability and the aging communities. Currently, Eric educates through the West Virginia University Extension as the Monongalia County Extension. That's quite a word there.
Monongalia.
Yeah, thank you. And I see, if I didn't know Monongahela, I probably wouldn't have the hang up there. Educating about topics pertaining to family relationship, fitness, stress reduction, and overall wellness. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. So I first wanted to do a slide to talk about what we do in Families and Health. Families and Health, we provide education services in the areas of health, nutrition, relationships, family dynamics, and finances. One of the things I found as we did a needs assessment in our community to find out what would be needed from the extension agent in my county is they wanted things dealing with relationships and dealing with the prevention of those risk-taking behaviors of adolescents. So we did once we did a needs assessment in the community, we also did a needs assessment within the schools to find out what types of things are they dealing with, if it compares to what the teachers are saying and the administration is saying compared to what the community is saying, and they were the same thing. And then we went into other parts of our community because we wanted to be as inclusive as possible, and also there was something about weight management, which also dealt with diabetes, and then serving our community inclusively as possible, and that was dealing with the aging community and those who were differently abled, dealing with cognitive impairments and also developmental impairments. So one of the things that I made sure I did was I developed programming that was inclusive in all areas. We'll go to the next slide. We'll go to the next slide. So the first program that I used was the Healthy Choices, Healthy Relationships. And I really enjoyed using this. And one of the things that people have asked me is, how did I get into the schools? I made a call to I went through athletics. And I found that a lot of the coaches were also gym teachers and they're health teachers. So what I did was I found out exactly what their curriculum was and exactly what topics they were serving and weeks that they had to do their certain topics. And I found that there was modules and lessons within Healthy Choices, Healthy Relationships that met those needs. So to go into one of the classrooms, and it just became something that was very cool, because the way you present this programming, these lessons, is much different than the lecture regurgitation style that they were used to. And to talk about boys and girls and think and respond differently and how the brain is different, which could easily be considered a dry topic to adolescents, to them it also explained to them why they took risk-taking behaviors, and then it gave them an opportunity to think independently about ways they had options now. So to talk to them about the choices they could make to not do those things, but then also understand why they may have been motivated to find out about drinking or find out about risk-taking sexual behaviors or anger or alcohol consumption, all those different things. It gave them a free opportunity to discuss this stuff in a non-judgmental environment. In addition to that, it also was something that I had to be very cognizant of, was the fact that I was not there to be their therapist. I was an educator. So this program and these lessons definitely gave you an opportunity to take it deeper with the students, to have them look at themselves independently. But in addition to that, it also gave them an opportunity to discuss as peers options they may have had and why the boys compared to the girls thought differently about different topics in regards to relationships, in regards to sexuality, in regards to social media, in regards to bullying, who gets cyberbullied, who doesn't get cyberbullied, and it just gave them a good opportunity to almost, I would tell you that the debates that would happen within the classrooms were very interesting, and as the facilitator and presenter of the lesson, it was my job to make sure they came to a conclusion that was very healthy. We'll go to the next slide. The other one I used was the Relationship Smarts Plus, which I thought which is a wonderful, it's a wonderful curriculum. It provided them an opportunity to confidently look at their roles and relationships. And the lesson that sticks out to me the most right now is lesson 1, where we start to talk about the influences you have in your life and who are you. One of the activities that we've done is they have a tree that they draw this tree, and the tree has bark on it, and it also has things that corrode the bark and things that nurture the leaves in the tree itself, and also the things that the roots that keep the tree steady. And to have these children or adolescents to talk about what are those things that corrode your bark, and really what we're talking about, what are the things that intrude on your boundaries, and what are those things that keep you grounded, and what are the things that you need to nurture you, and to talk about it from a metaphor or something that symbolizes that, but then to take it deeper with a student to find out what is it that you need compared to what maybe your mom and dad think you need. And to have that discussion where it's non-judgmental and it's research-based gave these students an opportunity to truly think. And I think that I shared when I was talking to Irene and Kathy about this, one of the most interesting things that came out of this was I had a child talk to us about relationships, and she shared that she was a child of incest. And as she discussed this, and I also had to make sure I chaperone people's confidentiality and let them know that you are sharing this in an environment that your confidentiality is not going to be something that I can dictate what's going to happen outside this classroom. But because she could say, I understand now why there were some challenges with the interaction that I had with people in my family. But I know that who I am now, and I understand what I need to do to nurture myself. It was just a clear example of how impactful healthy facilitation of this program can be. And the other part to it is, as a facilitator of these programs, it is very important that you do not infuse your value system. I think you have to keep to the fidelity of the program is very important for you to meet the learning objectives and goals of each lesson. The other, so that was really good, and also for them to understand the developmental stages. And I think that to talk to a student in the developmental stage is very important. I think the program is definitely developed in that way. And why I say it's important to understand the developmental stages, because when they start to talk about the fact that they are trying to figure out what other people are doing, they want to be like other people, they want to feel included, they want to get approval, we're really talking about role conformity versus identity. And the virtue that comes out of that is love. And really what we're talking about is self-love. So when an adolescent starts to talk about who they are and what they want to share about themselves and what makes them important and what keeps them grounded, what they're really starting to identify is why they love themselves and what they find out about themselves that is important in comparison to what other people think is important about them. They find it out for themselves. So we start to move them towards that virtue of self-love, which also I think has a really positive effect on their interactions with people. And it may even decrease their desire to have codependent relationships. It may even decrease their desire to need to find out, do I have to experience pain to know what pain feels like? It may give them an opportunity to realize that I can set a boundary and that's okay. And in a lot of situations, I found that I've had young people find me on Twitter and Instagram and all the different social medias that I've become a part of, and they've shared examples of them saying no to using drugs or no to, in our area, one of the things that the students shared was a challenge was prescription medication abuse. And to talk about them saying no and how confident they felt about saying no, or even having a very Appalachian rural male say that feeling vulnerable is a strength. And to have them talk about why is that a strength? And the guys will say, because when I could tell you what I'm afraid of, what I need, what I don't need, what I aspire to have, that means I must like myself. So it changes the whole dynamic of really, it just changes things up in a way that's very healthy. We can go to the next slide. I developed this. I put this slide together because I think that this is one of the most important things going into. And I go into the public school, and I know that someone asked a question about my county is as where West Virginia University is located. So my county is a very Appalachian, rural, urban, suburban community, which may sound like it doesn't make any sense, but we have a very transient kind of a environment because we have college students who come in and a lot of them stay, and they're typically from New Jersey or New York because tuition is cheaper here. So we have we have international students. And then we have we're Division I school, so we have a lot of athletes who end up staying in town, and they typically are from more urban or suburban communities. So one of the things that I have to very much be aware of in regards to going into the public schools, and I have done this from 7th grade up to seniors in high school, and I've also done this with fraternities and sororities on our college campus. From a surface level, I look at the classroom setup. A lot of the activities may require some movement or use of multimedia equipment, so I have to assess what I have in the room to use. And so sometimes to use a PowerPoint is not something that is appropriate. So I have to make sure that I can deliver the message, deliver the lesson, because I have it rehearsed, and I can facilitate the dialogue, and also maybe change it up. Instead of doing a movement exercise, maybe have to do it in diads and triads, and that's two students to three students that are sitting next to each other because of the time constraints that I have. A classroom's time may be 45 minutes, but then there's attendance that has to be taken that takes about 5 minutes. There may be homework that has to be taken in that takes about 5 to 6 minutes, and then maybe they talking about the homework that they're having, then I get my opportunity. So I have to make sure that I'm on point and that I really have assessed what a classroom is like and what the teacher needs. I also have to know the grade level that I'm dealing with. If I'm dealing with freshmen, I know that I'm dealing with people who are still really trying to figure out and are definitely much more pliable. When I'm dealing with sophomores, when I'm dealing with juniors and seniors, I know that I'm dealing with people who think they know who they are, and I know that they don't. So my job is to help them to really expand their thought and think deeper than the group that they may be associated with, the athletes, cheerleaders, beyond their social group. Who are you? And I said something about the media devices, and I also have to be very aware of the time. But to take it deeper, I have to also have a very firm understanding of the colloquial terms that are in that community that I'm serving. So I have to have a personal thesaurus that is very vast, meaning if a kid says, well, that's tight, I have to know he's not talking about a snug sweater. He may be talking about that being a cool thing, and I have to know that he's saying that's a cool thing and not ask him to define that for me, because then I have lost my relativity. I've lost it, and I become the grown-up that they're schooling. So I have to be very aware and use the context of the sentence to understand what they're talking about. So I may have to take that question and say, oh, because you said it was tight, what do you take that deeper for me? Or what does that mean to you? And then I start to understand the context of the sentence, because sometimes in the urban, suburban, and rural communities, there are different terms that these youth use that I am clueless on, but they don't know that I'm clueless. And then the attitude of the teacher. I also have to know the environment that these youth are used to. So if I come in there and I know that the teacher is very much into lecture regurgitation, it is going to take me a little longer to make sure that I get a conversation, a facilitate dialogue with these youth in a way that they want to feel free with me. And I use a very simple strategy. It's called RCFF. RCFF. I build rapport. I get a contract at learning objectives, the goals of the class, and then I funnel and focus it to a conclusion. RCFF. And the rapport piece is important, because if I don't get the rapport, then I will not get true dialogue, and I become the substitute teacher. And that also creates a relatability to me, because now they know that I'm talking to them as an individual within a group, and they dig me for that, for lack of a better term. And then also my skill in managing time. As I'm doing my RCFF, I'm also very aware of my time constraints. So I may take 5 minutes of my report piece. I may take 7 minutes dealing with my contract, explaining that contract, asking if anybody has any questions about that. And then I present the content and activities within that, and I funnel and focus that with my conclusions and questions. And that definitely shows my ability to close. And as I manage time skillfully and make it relatable, the students really like what I'm bringing to the table, because they know I'm talking to them and I'm not talking from a surface position. We go to the next slide. One of the things that I've always found as we conclude every lesson, I've been asked questions about things, and I've had students come in and observe me teach these classes. And typically those students that come in and observe me are students who are becoming teachers or master's level counselors, future psychotherapists. So they'll come in and watch me teach educational programming. And one of the things they've always said, man, how do you facilitate some of the questions? Because some of the students will ask you questions that is really difficult. And what I need to do is I use WDEP when everybody asks me a question. So the first part to the WDEP is, what is it that this student wants? And then I ask them very specifically, what are you doing to make that need happen, to meet that need or meet that want? And then I say, well, how's that working for you? Explain to me how that's working. And if it's not working, you may need to develop a different plan and go against and be the salmon going upstream, because what it sounds like you're doing is something that consistently has not worked. So what they want is, I want to have higher self-esteem. What are you doing to do that? Well, I'm not doing anything. Okay. So we started to talk about that and go a little further, and it's been very helpful. And when it comes to facilitating and closing the class, that's all I have.
Okay, great, Eric. Do we have any questions, Kathy, for Eric?
I think
Kathy?
I'm sorry. I was answering a technical question. I think we don't have any
Okay.
questions right away. I think I answered the ones that were needing to be answered as we went along. Okay.
Well, thanks. And I think
about that.
for our last speaker, I need to have a little disclosure here, because when I was with Ohio State Extension, I was in family financial management as well. So I relate to this particular subject matter very well. But Jennifer Hunter is our Kentucky State Extension Specialist for Family Financial Management, an assistant professor in the Department of Family Sciences, where she teaches a course in family resource management. Jennifer joined the Department of Family Sciences in July of 2010, but she began her career in Extension as an associate, working with farm financial records. Additionally, during her tenure with the University of Kentucky, she has served as an Extension agent for 4-H youth development and has administered a variety of state-level Extension programs. Jennifer's professional and research interests primarily focus on household financial management. Well, Jennifer, I know that you're going to talk about money habitudes a bit, and that you use the card. So it seems to me that relationship education fits and impacts so many different levels of our lives. And I think from my side, the cards definitely fit into the finances and the relationships of our young people. What have you learned from using, and how have you used the money habitude cards?
And thank you all for having me today. And my experience with money habitudes and the role that I have with the University of Kentucky is that one of my jobs is to provide training for our county extension agents on different types of financial curriculum, financial topics, so that they are then prepared to go out and provide information and trainings to the clientels in their county. And so often when we're dealing with the topic of financial management, that can be a very difficult topic to get people to come out to a county extension meeting to attend, and that our agents have continually asked for something that's a little bit different than just telling us how to make a budget or do a spending diary or identify our needs and our wants, that they wanted something that had a little bit of a different twist in dealing with financial education. And money habitudes allowed us that opportunity. And so over the course of the last year, we have trained over 120 county extension agents from all three of the primary programming areas: Ag and Natural Resources, 4-H Youth Development, and Family Consumer Sciences. Now, I will say that the vast majority of that number have been from either 4-H Youth Development or Family Consumer Sciences. But one of the ways that we promoted the Money Habitudes program was a cross-disciplinary, cross-programming initiative as a way to integrate financial knowledge, integrate financial programming into a variety of topics that may be going on in a local community. So as part of our in-service training for our county agents, the tools and resources that we provided to them with the Money Habitudes program, and for those of you all that may not be familiar with what Money Habitudes is that it really focuses on your habits and attitudes, thus the name Habitudes, towards money. So it helps people understand more of their money personality. It's very similar to some of the other personality assessments that you may have done through your employer or at different times in life, except this one specifically focuses on money. And so people kind of start to identify what their money personality is, what type of buyer that makes them, how they can use their money personality to best fit their financial goals. And then also, as Irene mentioned, it also focuses on a relationship component. So how my money habitude may differ from my husband's money habitude. As I gather a greater understanding of his habitude, then I can also think about how best to relate to him just in conversation or to address different financial issues that may arise at our home. And we all know that financial disagreements or arguments or distress is one of the leading causes of marital stress. And so money habitudes is a good tool just to help individuals learn more about themselves and their money personality, and then also for someone that they're in a relationship with to help them understand how best to interact with them. So with that in mind, essentially that is what we trained our county extension agents on in that concept. So our in-service training was a 6-hour workshop through which we provided all of our county agents a copy of the Money Habitudes card sort, which would be an adult card deck, as well as the youth card sort. And the youth card sort is targeted towards teens. There is also a third set that is called Money Habitudes 2 that is targeted to 18 to 25-year-olds. So in the training, we provided them with the tools that they would need to go out and replicate, and then ways that they might be able to use the Money Habitudes program in their current extension programs. So it can be used as a very quick icebreaker that's just 5 to 10 minutes. They do the card sort, they do the assessment, and they start to identify what their money personality is. Other ways that it could be used as a conversation starter, and so you can kind of stretch it to about 20 minutes of where you start learning more about each of the personalities. And then it could go anywhere up to a 45-minute to a 2-hour program that's a completely standalone program where you learn about how your money habitude may affect you in your job search process, or what type of jobs you may be best suited for based on your habitude, things such as that. So there's a tremendous amount of information that you can garner just from a simple card sort. So not only did we provide that training to our county agents, then we have also gone out and delivered the program in a variety of fashions. So I do work on campus, and I spend several class periods or doing guest lectures of using the Money Habitudes program. Typically I use the 2, which is the 18 to 25-year-old program, when I'm working with college students. And typically I deliver that in a 60 to 75-minute session. And in that, it's to help our college students begin to understand how their money personality has been formed, where they learned how they view and feel money, and where they're getting their money messages from. And that's a big deal when we're dealing with our youth and our young people, is learning the impact that the media has and learning the impact of financial peer pressure. And so college students are at a very vulnerable age of where they are becoming fiscally responsible for themselves. And so we really want them to think about what is their money habitude, what is their money personality, how is that impacting their decisions, and how can they make the best decisions for their financial future. Other ways that we have used the program is in Kentucky we do a lot of America Saves programming through the National America Saves effort, and so some of our family consumer science agents and our 4-H agents have incorporated that into their Saves programming, and so they've gone into high schools and they actually use the Money Habitudes program as an educational component to go along with some of, let's say, the more fun aspects associated with the Kentucky Saves program, such as a piggy bank design contest and that type thing. Other ways that the program has been used, our state is divided into 6 districts, and that we have one district, which probably encompasses about 15 counties, has taken the initiative on themselves to implement the Money Habitudes program in each county in some fashion. And so I have one county agent that she's actually gone into the prison system and worked with the prison population with the program. I have another county agent that has worked with their local extension homemakers. We have a very large extension homemaker program in the state of Kentucky, and so they've done the program with extension homemakers, and we've really reached a large age and variety with the program. It really transcends across all audiences. The cards are designed at a very low reading level, and that they have pictures on one side, and it's very easy for any and all audiences to use the program, and it seems to speak well to any and all audiences, even those audiences that tend to be very reluctant to attend financial programming. And I believe that's all I had prepared. If there's any questions about the Money Habitudes program, I'm more than happy to answer them.
And I'm going to give, this is Kathy, I'm going to give you a few seconds to write down any questions that you might have about the Money Habitudes program, or actually about any of the programs. I would like to say that we have, we've gotten great insight in this webinar on about 5 different programs, or at least we've glossed over 5 different programs. So I would just really encourage you to go to our website. On our home page under programs, each of the programs has more explanation in depth about the author, about the target audience, and it also has a sample lesson that you can download and look at. And someone had asked me earlier about purchasing the programming. We do have a very liberal return policy, as long as you don't write in the manual. And also, if you would like to contact me, we do give 30-day digital review copies, so that might help you as well. Actually look at the different programs. But please contact me or Irene with any specific questions about that.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. Took the words right out of my mouth.
And I think we can move on. We're about out of time. I appreciate everybody coming. So if you want to kind of
finish up
do the
here.
follow-up for us. Yes, please, Irene.
Sure. And just as a reminder that any purchases that you would make after this 30 days of airing of this webinar, and that would be the live airing of it, that there is free shipping, and that's a savings of 10%, but you need to use the webinar code at checkout. And also, thank you for joining us and for listening to honoring these people with your attention, because they are doing great work. They are, as you can tell, very energetic and very committed to their work in their particular counties. And I thank them all for the work they've extended here for this webinar. We want you to keep in touch with us at www.dibbleinstitute.org. Look for other things on our webinar, our website. You can subscribe to our e-newsletter, which contains updates on research regarding youth, and like us on Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn, and also you can contact with any information Irene at dibbleinstitute.org or Kathy at dibbleinstitute.org. And Kathy, we have our May webinar coming up, and it's an introduction to trauma-informed approach in relationship education. That'll be aired May 13th, 2015 at 4 o'clock, and that'll be here before we know it.
Yes, it will.
Anything I forgot, Kathy?
No, I think you've got it all. We'll be sending out the invitation for that webinar in the next couple days.
And if there's any comments, any of your questions that did not get answered, we will definitely either I will answer them, or I will direct them onto the presenter that they are most able to answer those for you. So thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure spending this little bit over an hour with you. I look forward to next month. Goodbye.
Bye.